What's the most exciting new feature in Photoshop Beta? Hands down, it's parametric filters. So called because each one relies on its own custom numerical parameters. Plus, they produce editable effects every time. Prepare yourself for a jolt of parametricity. All right, the first thing to know about parametric filters is that some of them, anyway, not all of them, but some of them are wicked cool. Look at this. Look at this. I'm sure you could create a kind of like hologram effect in the olden days without parametric filters, but it would take about 15 applications of gallery effects. Gallery filters, for those of you who don't go way back. And so that's cool. And then this is space rain, which is awesome. You can create rain effects in Photoshop without this, using noise and motion blur and stuff like that. You're not going to get these drop-offs where we have a big blop of rain right at the end and then it trails away like little comets or something. And then, iron filings. This is awesome. Check it out. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can get a sense for where we're going. This is a variation on the new oil paint filter, by the way. So these are the three I'm going to show you because they're so awesome. Hologram, by the way, rain, and then oil paint, even though it doesn't look like oil paint. We're going to start with this guy. Comes to us from the Dreamtime image library. I believe it involves some AI, some generative fill, according to the guy who created the image. I didn't do anything to it, but hey, you could be sitting on some free images right now. Just check out the Dreamtime description. All right, anyway, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to get to these parametric filters because they're so rad. And first, you got to be working inside Photoshop Beta, the new one, which for me is 25.1, and potentially moving forward. I didn't used to think that moving forward thing. It used to take Photoshop about 5 versions to decide it wanted to destroy a filter and never bring it back. And there's usually a good one like the old school oil paint that came and went and came and went and came again. But hey, then Live Canvas came along and broke my heart. It's a filter that exists for about 18 months in beta, and then Adobe arbitrarily destroys it, even though it was looking good, in my opinion. Some of you didn't agree. Some of you were wrong. It was, especially for text effects, it was going places. But hey, it's not there anymore. I'm not bitter. Filter menu, parametric filters right there. So either you're seeing it because you're using Photoshop Beta 25.1 or later, or you're not seeing it because you're using Photoshop Beta 26.9 and they've gotten rid of it, so your 3-month window is out. But while it was around, it is still around, by the way. It was really cool. It is very cool. And so what happens is you choose this and it brings up a list of all these parametric filters that you can apply, and then you make your modifications over here in the parametric properties panel. And so it's kind of like working with adjustment layers. You assign the adjustment from the adjustments panel, theoretically, that's one way to work. And then you make your numerical modifications in the properties panel. So this is the kind of relationship that's going on. I only mention this because I put them next to each other because I find that very useful. And here's their icons down here at the bottom of the little column. But they're not represented in the window menu. So as things stand right now, I'm sure Adobe will correct that obvious oversight. These commands need to be here. If we're going to have the panels, who knows? But anyway, and most of these are cool. Not all of them. A duotone is not cool at all. It's a flop because we have gradient maps. So what's that? You try it out and you'll see it doesn't do anything new. It just kind of does the old stuff worse. But some of them are really, really great. So notice like this guy's called glass filter. This guy's called halftone. This guy's called hologram filter. We'll come to these. I'm going to start with filter glitch. So it's not filter gulch, it's filter glitch. The filter's at the front. And then notice a few things happen. I want you to see this. I forgot to mention, I'm undoing. Well, I tried to undo. Doesn't seem like it's going to respond to me. Let's see. Undo, undo, undo. I see. That was 3 operations. I'm starting with a flat background. This is a JPEG image I want you to see up here in the title tab. All right, so go back to filters. or the parametric filters. Click on filter glitch, just a good place to start. Not necessarily my favorite, but it's pretty good. And it's not my favorite. And then we notice that it created a copy, Photoshop did, create a copy of the layer, called it layer 0. Here, who cares? I'm not going to rename it, could. It makes it a smart object and then applies parametric filter as an editable smart filter, so you can turn it off and see the original image and then turn it back on and see the affected image. All right, I'm going to zoom way in here so I can show you. I'm going to take the amount of glitches down. So reduce the glitch density value. Here's, well, maybe I'm a little bit zoomed in for that. I just want you to see we had glitches all over the place. Now we have fewer of them. And 20%. Why do I say that? Because 0.2 is 20%. We're speaking to Photoshop in its native language of decimals. I don't know why it thinks we want that these days. It's like that's your language, Photoshop. That's not our language. But anyway, 0.2 is the same as 20%. So like if I change this to 1, and that's gonna move the circle all the way over to the right, and it stays moved. All right, that's not always the case, but 1 is 100% because any number times 1 is that same number. Any number times 100% is that same number because 100% of 4, for example, is 4. 4 times 1 is 4 too. You get what I'm saying? I just want you to note that 4.44 is 44%. So in case you're trying to think like Photoshop, that's what you're doing. 0.15 is 15%. Glitch intensity, some of these values, I just want you to see this. If I crank it all the way up to 100%, watch that circle. It bops down to the middle. And so it's basically, that's its way of telling you, hey, you had me at 100%. I like that. But you can go higher to 200% if you want. You're going to get more intense glitches going across the entire image and so forth. All right, I'm going to zoom in. I got to do this because I have to show you my biggest pet peeve with this feature. It's totally fixable. It's just you got to know about it. Do you see how gooey everything is, how gummy? I'll zoom in even farther to 300% so you can see jagged, upsample. But the worst of jagged, it's upsample jaggedness. And it gets even worse if you set this resolution value to draft. So it goes more goobery. Notice that. Now, you may think, okay, resolution, Deke, I get it, right? Draft through ultra. I'll come to that in a second. Ultra is what you want. I shouldn't sigh. That's what you want always. But you might think, well, draft, right? Because now you can play with these numerical parameters because they're all custom. Every single one of these parametric filters has its own collection of numerical parameters. And so you're going to have to kind of dir your way through it, right? You're going to have to play with them, figure out what each one of them does. And then, presumably, right, workflow, best practices, you would go up here, you got everything figured out because there is no preview checkbox, so you can't turn a preview off, and so it's always previewing. That's because it's so confident it's going to work just fine even at ultra. Now ultra isn't like some kind of resolution booster, by the way. It just matches the resolution that was already at hand. Hey, real quick, like what you're seeing so far? Wish you could see even more? Filters like Spherify, Symmetry, Shimmering Glass, Scratches and Damages, and Emboss Deboss. Well then, join me at my Patreon, which is patreon.com/DeekNow. And now, back to those parametric filters already in progress. And so check it out. This is, okay, I'll zoom out a little bit because we're in too far. I'm looking at 200% now. This is without the glitches layer right there. I could call it glitches, but I'm not going to, just because we're going to be doing different things with it. But that is the added layer. You can see that we've got all kinds of great detail going on. This is the inside of the the space shell, the visor, and we have all kinds of wonderful stuff going on here. We don't need ultra resolution. High, don't do high. High's not high. High is the next step above medium, which sucks, but not as bad as draft. The only one that's any good is ultra. So just first step, change resolution to ultra. That does not affect the speed at which the other options work. They will still just go ahead and preview at their own pace. Each one of them takes about 2 seconds on this machine, so could vary for you. Next, another one to bear in mind, because these are just going to be, you're going to have to find, feel your way through. Although I am going to walk you through hologram, rain, and oil paint because they're so great. But I do want you to see this guy right there, randomize. So resolution is true. It's there for every single one of the filters. And randomize is too. Now randomize, I got to turn the filter back on so we can see the effect. And I'll go ahead and zoom out and I'll show you. Glitch angle. So anytime there's angle, that's going to be degrees as opposed to percent. So notice it goes at a different angle. But randomize is going to make a difference for some filters, and filter glitch is one of them. You can see that we get a different randomization going, and we get a seed value, and it is as many as things stand right now. This will change, I'm sure. It's as high as many as 6 digits. Now, seeds have been popularized by AI imaging, so specifically Midjourney and then Adobe Firefly. They both will give you seeds, and that way you can take somebody else's seed value, something they've had success with, and replay it and see if you get something maybe identical, maybe just really similar. And so you can do the same thing here. The seed is not referencing Firefly, by the way, in this case. It's just a seed value, and so you could enter your own. Just enter 111 and try it out and see what kind of interesting variation it comes up with. And then you could try that again with the same filter and possibly get the same results. All right, now I want this next thing that I'm about to show you is not essential to understanding parametric filters, but I want you to get a sense for where they came from. I do have chapters in these videos, so in other words, there's time codes. You can skip to the next one by all means. I'd rather you do that than tell me how I'm giving you too much information when this is golden stuff. And so I'm going to get rid of that layer for a second, and I want to show you where this all started not too long ago. Go to the window menu and choose materials. Now, materials are Substance 3D materials. There's lots of them, and these are just a fraction of the ones that are available if you had a Substance subscription. Don't know why you do that on top of everything else, but that's an option. But notice right here, arabesque, what is it? Ceramic tiles. So click on it. It creates a new filter. Notice over here in the layers panel, it creates a new, layer. And it converts it to a smart object, and then it applies parametric filter. This is a parametric filter, and we are now in the parametric properties in order to adjust our mosaic tiles. And so I could make them smaller by scrolling down here to the transform options, and I will change the scale to 0.33. So that's 33% because of the point in front of it, and that's going to scale. And then if you wanted to, you could change your lighting properties because the tiles are underlit. But all I'm going to do is just change the blend mode to, let's say, hard light right here, so that we are merging that 3D layer with the image in the background. Now, I'm not terribly convinced. I mean, obviously there's some stuff you can do with this. I'm not terribly convinced that this is the most essential feature to ever be added to Photoshop at this point in time, because we're not wrapping around the contours of any kind of 3D object. We're just taking this intricate, albeit notice all these parameters available to us, numerical parameters, hence parametric properties, hence parametric filters, so that they rely heavily on these parameters, and also color swatches that we can apply in this case, and check boxes and all kinds of parameters. Anyway, I'm just not convinced that we need elaborate materials flopped flatly onto four wall images that exist inside the four walls of the canvas. Oh, whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. I just want you to see where these came from. Those of you who care, those of you who don't care, hopefully just skip this and are rejoining me now. I'll get rid of the materials panel because we don't need it. And now let's take a look at those 3 favorites of mine: hologram, rain, and oil paint. And so I'll just go up to filter once again because it's the easiest way to go. Choose parametric filters. That'll flop you back into the parametric filters panel right here. Let's go back here. Some of these are really great, including, notice we got 2 holograms. There's hologram filter and there's hologram filter 2. So you can check them out. I still have that Extra layer, that's a smart object. So now I should just be able to click on hologram filter and it should just apply it. Yeah, it does. All right, so isn't this cool already? It's very cool. We just have all this stuff that would take a lot longer if we had to plod through a bunch of other filters inside Photoshop. But of course, right? I'll zoom in a little more. I want you to see, okay, it created another layer, created another copy of this guy. So I don't need that one, so I'll just get rid of it. And I want you to see if I turn off the background that much of this new layer is transparent. Hence the checkerboard pattern right here. And so its resolution is not going to be diminished by the filter because it's not being affected. But this stuff with all the kind of glitch, once again, that we saw before, is being affected by the resolution value. So do yourself a favor right up front before you forget, change resolution to ultra. I know no way of making that a default setting, by the way. All right, and now let's check out some of these other options. Now, these are going to vary. These numerical parameters are going to vary from one filter to the next. They're always going to be different, so you're going to have to be ready to play. But the lines density, what's interesting about this, I think, is if you want more skinnier lines, then you crank up the lines density value, in my case, for example, to 85%, so 0.85. But I want fewer, thicker lines than this, so I'm going to take this down to 0.5, which is 50%. You also have the option, let's actually go with even fewer for a second here so I can show you. Distortion's really interesting. Distortion's one of those ones that you crank up to 1, and notice I've dragged the circle all the way to the right-hand side. So there it is, but a moment later, plop, it goes to the middle. But you can see all that distortion occurring, and then you can say, okay, I'll take it up to a value of 2 and see what happens. And you can take these values, you can skip the middleman, you could take it up. Let's see. Can I go to 20? That would be like 2,000%. Let's see if it'll go that high. And it did. And look at all that distortion we have in there. I don't want that. So I'm going to change that to 0.2 for 20%. And then I'm going to take the lines density value. You can see each one of these takes about 2 seconds, 2 full seconds on this machine anyway, to update. So that's something to bear in mind. It may take longer in your machine. There is no option. I'm going to change blur to 0.8, so 80%. There is no option to turn off a preview checkbox, so you can kind of make a bunch of changes if you want. If you don't believe me and you think Draft's going to be faster, Draft's going to be your buddy, go ahead and give it a try. Whip out the stopwatches and see if I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I've been known to be wrong in the past. But have I been known to be wrong in the future? That I don't know. I think I made a mess of something. Here, let's turn off lines as transparency for a second here. And I think, yeah, we'll introduce more transparency in there. Now, very few of these options have hints. And that's because it's a very, very beta filter. It's just in the hands of the engineers right now. There's very few marketing people that are in there going, okay, what would be a good tip here? Well, how about for lines as transparency, how about we do this? I'll hover. So true, I guess that means checkbox on, returns the first input, false returns. What did you see that? False returns. I want you to see that. False returns the second input. Thank you very much. Oh my goodness, that's so helpful, because who knew that a checkbox had an on and off result? Well, that's just, thousands of years into checkboxes, I finally understand them. Anyway, you can play with that. And I went with a tint intensity of 80%. So no, I'll change this guy to 0.8. But what really matters, and then you can just lose your mind with these glow values right here. And gain intensity is pretty cool. I want smooth. Gain is it gain? It's grain. I'm sorry, I'm misreading that. Grain is this noise that's here inside of these lines right there. I want these to be smooth, so I'll take this down to 0.2, which is essentially 20%. But then you can play with the glow values, see if you get anything meaningful. What I'm going to do, actually, that's pretty cool. What I'm going to do is change the tint color. So I'll click on it. And so not all parameters are numerical parameters. Well, this one is. I'm going to change the hue value to 210 degrees. Saturation and brightness are fine at 100%. Click OK. And that's because I think, as we learned in the Clone Wars cartoons, anytime you're seeing a hologram, the lines are blue, aren't they? Yes, they are. Okay, so anyway, you can play more with these now. Notice we have presets. So there's some that are saved for you, like damage projector. Well, default is going to be one of them. Damage projector. Well, I'll show you damage projector in a second. Blurry grain's one I created, but I want to create another one. I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm going to call this guy, is he active? Let's see. I'm going to call this guy Smooth Blue because we just have some smooth blue lines, and I'll click create. Now, I messed up. Look at that. Lines as transparency got turned off, and as a result, we have too much hologram action. So I'm going to turn that back off. So it got turned on, that is, if I said that wrong. And I think I hit the return key, the enter key or something like that. And then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to save a new preset. And so I'll call this, Smooth Blue. Let's see what happens if I just try to save it with the same name, create. And now let's see, do I have two called Smooth Blue? I do. So I could click the other one. I could select the other one that has lines as transparency turned on, and then I could click this down pointing arrowhead here, and I could say delete preset, and that'll get rid of that new one that I created, so that the smooth blue from before, there it is good with lines as transparency turned off. Anyway, I also, look, you could try out Damage Projector, which is a preset that is currently shipping along with Photoshop. That's really cool, I think. And you could try Ghost Effect. I'm going to try Blurry Grain because that one, what I did was I increased the grain value right there. You can see I took it up to 40%. Not that high. But, you know, it's a cumulative effect of all these different values working together. All right, let's say I want to switch to a different parametric filter. Why then, I could go to Parametric Filters right there, that tab. But that, you know, because I took the care to put them next to each other, it's easy to find. But otherwise, just go to the filter menu and choose Parametric Filters, even though it has a checkbox next to it. Choose it, and that will make the panel go away. And now, choose it again. Do that. Choose it again. And you will see your list of parametric filters, at which point you can say, let's try rain. There is, by the way, a snow filter, so you can try that too. But I'm going to go with rain, and it is going to take a moment in order to create the raindrops. And in my case, let's see. Yep. So if I turn off the background, I just want you to see that. We're not seeing anything. There's no transparency. And so what that tells me is that I can expect this to look like garbage because up here, maybe I should make my panel a little taller. Up here, resolution, it's at the top, so you might have to scroll up to it, is set to medium by default. We need, of course, not high. What did we discuss? Ultra is what we talked about. I'm sorry. Why? Why am I being such a jerk? Unknown. Maybe I just am one. All right. Hey, angle 335 degrees is what I came up with. I'm just showing you stuff. Even though there's not a degree value, it does change the angle of the raindrops. And I want a little more rain, so I'm going to take this value up to 120%. And you might already, your circle might already be over to the right. Don't worry about it. You know, you just got to move it around. And I'm going to change my rain strength value to 80%. Now, darkness, now imagine for a second that what we have is kind of a bunch of rain noise that is being screened in to the astronaut image is kind of what's happening. Well, darkness is it's like you're applying the levels, levels adjustment layer. If you go darker with it, you're going to have fewer raindrops and you're going to have more darkness. And it's also, you can see it has more of a propensity toward, kind of this film noir effect. So I'm going to take it to 30% right there. And now if you want to exaggerate the highlights so that they're really blown out and we feel like we're really close to the surface of the sun, I'm going to take my highlights value up to 1 for 100%. And we end up with this cool effect right here, which I ended up, I think it's just sitting here, I ended up calling Ice Storm. I think that's the exact same effect that I saved out before it is, because look at that. And you can also try out something like Dense Rain, which is less dense than what I've created, by the way, because what I've created is a full-on ice storm. right there. In space, yes, thank you. That's totally possible, by the way. And I should mention, well, I'm going to mention it right now. If you want, you can combine this thing that you've made with the underlying original using a blend mode. So you could go here and I could say, let's just keep any lightened pixels, anything that's lighter in the background. You could just use everything to brighten. That would be the screen mode. But if you just want to keep the lighter stuff on a channel by channel basis, you'd go with the lighten blend mode. All right. Anyway, that's one way to work. But let's say you know me, I can't shut up, but I just have to tell you everything. Let's say you don't want to work that way because that's inelegant. And like, you don't want to have to rely on that background. I'll turn it off. You can blend the effect internally because you're working with a smart object. Just go ahead, smart filter. Just go ahead and double click on the blend right there, the little blend icon to bring up. This is a slower way to work because it has to bring up this dialog box. But now you can change the mode to lighten, and you're going to get the same effect because you're blending the affected filter, the filtered pixels with the original ones. Click OK. Well, I don't want to do that because I don't really want that to apply to the next thing I do. So I'll just leave that alone. Anyway, let's check out why don't we oil paint. Now, the reason I want to show you oil paint, I'm going to turn this. No, I'm not going to turn off the smart filters. I'll just turn off parametric filter. You know, right, that under stylize, there's this guy, oil paint. It's been with us. It hasn't been with us. It's been with us again. I covered this about a year ago, and it's pretty darn cool. And so I could turn up the stylization. Yeah, I could crank the scale value up to 100. That's what I did. And we've got all kinds of, kind of rough stuff going on here. It looks all oil painty and so forth. I groove on this filter. Some of you love it. Some of you don't. Doesn't matter because this next thing we're about to see is totally different. So I'll cancel out. It's not like it's better or anything, just different. And so with a parametric filter back on, I'll just go up to the filter menu, choose parametric filters. I'll switch this back to the parametric filters panel right there. And then I'll try this guy right there, oil paint filter. And it just happens to work totally differently. Notice it's got all kinds of different options. I would say that's a pretty darn different looking effect. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with this effect, by the way? It's garbagey. That's what's wrong. Because the resolution set to medium as worst default ever. Well, that's arguable. All right. One of the worst default. It's like the top 100 anyway. I'm going to change this to ultra. Actually, I say it's top 10. This is really bad. This should not be here. It just shouldn't be here. Maybe it works with the materials. Maybe that's why it's a vestige, but it's no good with this. We need to be able to increase the resolution all the time, have it look great. I'm going to zoom in just so you can see that we've got some impeccable results. And now I'm going to change some of the parameters of which I speak so highly. And so I'll just go ahead and take the effect intensity down, let's say to 60%. This would be the kind of thing you just play with, right? You have to be in a little bit of a playful mood, and you have to be ready for the 2-second delay or whatever it's going to be. Fine details. I want these details to be very fine. And so I'm going to crank this value not all the way up to 100. Because at 100%, it gets to be a little kind of sketchy looking. But at a very high value, I'm going to wait for that to apply. Do you see what I'm saying? We just have all these little pieces that are just, it's less of an oil paint, more of a scrapey looking thing. Anyway, I'm going to take this down. You can't, the number keys the arrow keys don't work right now, is what I'm trying to say. So you just kind of have to drag these around or enter your own, custom values if you want. Now, I'm okay with these things, but as stroke size, X and Y. So notice that the strokes are constantly changing directions. They're not just horizontal or vertical. They are changing with the luminance, to coincide with the various luminance levels and the change in luminance levels inside the image. So let's say I want them to be kind of like short. So I'll change this guy to 0.2 and tall. So I'll take the Y value up to 1. And then I think this dot will move to the center. Will it? No, it won't. it's not going to do that. Yeah, it's not going to do that. But see, it's not necessarily like very vertical strokes. Sometimes they're horizontal or at a different angle. And that's just going to depend on what's going on inside the image. So it's, context sensitive. And then it would just be a matter of playing with these guys. I changed the highlight stroke size. Actually, this does make a difference, and you'll see why. I'm going to change the highlight stroke size. I'm going to bring them all down to 0.2. So 20%, and I'm going to, but you got to expect a delay on each one of these. I'm going to change the mid-tone stroke size to 0.1%, so 10%, 0.1, so 10% is what I meant. Do you see what's happening here? They're getting very super spiky. I'm going to leave shadows set to 30% and background strokes, which would be like if you basically did a select subject, everything that's outside that would be the background strokes. And I'm going to change that to 0.1 for 10%. And I get this totally not the least bit oil painty effect. Instead, it looks like iron filings, which is why I went ahead and saved it as a preset called iron filings. More to the point, because you have some other stuff you can check out here that's been saved along with. But more to the point, we have Randomize. And Randomize does work with this filter. Again, it works with some. It doesn't work with others. And, for what it's worth, you could change that to 4,444 and just try to see what a custom seed value, what kind of effect a custom seed value produces. And those, my friends, are my favorite of the many different parametric filters that are available to you here inside Photoshop Beta. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And don't forget, for still more detailed discussions of still more parametric filters, join me at patreon.com/DeekNow. Then go to Deek.com and sign up for my newsletter. I'm Deke McClellan. This is Deek Now.